I did want to ask you, well, I really for everybody else, before you get into something, ask yourself a question of what do you lack? Because whatever you do lack is going to be amplified in that relationship. And if you're not ready for somebody to tell you where you're falling short at, then that's not.
All right. Welcome back to another episode of The Real Deal Podcast with myself, Brandon Haley, and Mr. Cleon Deal.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen.
What are we going to talk about today?
Today we're going to talk about a very prevalent topic on social media. We want to talk about what you bring to the proverbial table. I see this discussion a lot. And what I see is a lot of people like to talk about exactly how great they are. But then I see another side of things where people are kind of diminishing the things that you bring. Mm-hmm. So I'm just very interested. Let's just kind of starting with you. Let's say before you get into a relationship, what do you feel like are important things for you to have or to be in tune with? What do you feel like is important for you before getting into a relationship?
Well, I think for a male in general, number one, he should be grounded spiritually. Mm-hmm. So whether it be religion, meditation, or a combination of the two, just be a very grounded person before you jump into a relationship, because there's a lot of emotional things that can sidetrack you and get you sidetracked off of the main goal of pursuing a relationship and keeping it strong. Mm-hmm. The second thing, and I think might be the most important thing, is that you got to be financially stable. Like, you got to have some sort of comfort when it comes to income. You don't have to be the richest person in the world.
What does financially stable mean? What's a number? What's stable?
I think nowadays, like, 50K is like low ball on it, but right. I mean, I only say that to say that I've pursued and been in relationships, like being like super, super broke. Mm-hmm. Like 1 year I made $20,000. Don't ask me how I survived off that in Tampa.
Yeah.
A lot of good things happened for me to kind of help me survive on that. But I would say minimum, and that's low ball on it. You got to shoot for at least 6-figure income. But in order to be in a relationship, I say have something consistent,
right?
Something that you can live comfortably below your means and still be able to not 100% support somebody, but still be able to at least have a minimal date night once a week. Mm-hmm. So I would say minimum would be 50, 60K on that.
Okay. I think that makes a lot of sense, right? Being grounded mentally, physically, spiritually, financially, I think are very important things, because I understand that obviously stability doesn't come from your partner. Stability is you, right? So if you don't bring stability, if you bring instability to the table before you even get there, chances are that relationship is going to be unstable. Now, with every relationship, there's growing pains, but at the very least, you can make sure you have those things before you get into it, right?
100%. Because even that year, when I was super, super struggling, like, that's all I would think about. Mm-hmm. So it's like, when you're not making money, like, that's literally all you think about. Is like, dang, I have no money to my name, essentially. Right. Like, all my money is just going straight to bills. So it's like, if that's all I can think about each day, I don't have enough energy nor time to actually pour into a relationship. I mean, when you're that broke, you have a lot of time, but you don't really have the energy because you're just so caught up on not having money. So once you can get to the point to where, like, you don't worry about money, I think that that's a safer way or safer time for you to be able to pursue something that's going to actually last long term. And if you are like I was in that situation, just keep moving forward, look up. Like, there are brighter days ahead. Like, if I made it out the mud, you can too. Like, there are brighter days ahead. But I wouldn't recommend that that's the time to actually start trying to look and pursue a relationship. Because at the end of the day, like, you might be good looking and attractive, right, and in shape, but like, you're not really bringing much to the table. Like, you got to have that taken care of to where it doesn't have to be a lot of money, but it has to be enough for you. So if you're a person like me who lives well below their means, your rent's pretty cheap. Your car payment isn't like too crazy. Like,
which is tough to do in Florida, by the way.
Which is tough to do in Tampa. Yeah. Definitely tough to do in Tampa or Miami. But living below your means to where you have enough money saved up and you're living comfortably below your means and you don't even think about money, like bills are paid for a whole 6 months to a year, then I say you're in at least a good mental place to be able to start pursuing that. If you can't bring that to the table, like you shouldn't be pursuing a relationship like that.
Yeah, I agree. Mainly from a standpoint of because of the fact that when I was broke, obviously by no means rich now, but when I was the brokest I've ever been, I made the dumbest decisions and did the dumbest things. And making your dumbest decisions while also being in a relationship is probably the worst time to do things like that. So you kind of, like we said, you kind of knock off your stability mentally when you're unstable in other areas. And that creates ground for a very shaky relationship. Now, as far as bringing things to the table, what do you feel like it's important for your partner to bring to you in that factor?
I think a little bit of the same things. You got to be grounded as a female.
So grounded, be grounded.
You have to be grounded. Like you can't be hot one day and cold next day. Like you can't be undiagnosed bipolar. You know what I'm saying? You got. Because I'll diagnose you. I probably won't be correct, but you gotta be level-headed. Because when you're in a relationship, and especially if you're in a relationship with somebody that works in the nightlife industry, just like we do, you gotta have a lot of trust. You know what I'm saying? Like we see women day in and day out. So like we're in, especially in our roles, like we're in a position to where we're around a lot of women. So a lot. Whoever I'm dating at the time, like they have to be super grounded in themselves, super secure to know that I'm not going to do anything dumb. Right. You know what I'm saying? So that would be the most important thing. Right. You also got to be driven. And this is more for like short-term driven in your job and goals, right? But long-term driven in like nurturing a family. And that's like what I want. Right. So it's different for everybody. But if you're not driven now on yourself and on your goals, when I get a family with you, when I get married to you, you're not going to be driven then. Like, it's not just going to happen. Right. So those are two things that I think I'm looking for in somebody in a relationship and what they need to bring to a table. I know you spoke earlier that you in particular, but also males in general, make rash or not so responsible decisions when they're broke. Explain, dive into that a little bit deeper. What was that decision that you actually made? Dive into that a little bit. We kind of just brushed over that. I was like, oh,
yeah, I was hoping to leave it there.
Need to hear this story.
So just for context, so I've been in Florida for about 9 years now. So I moved here. When I first moved here, I was working at Chipotle. So anybody,
Chipotle,
right?
Man.
You love Chipotle. Working for Chipotle, you don't get paid that much. I was probably making like $9-10 an hour living alone. All right. So anybody who knows rent in Tampa now is egregious, right? It's hard to find somewhere that's
significantly higher than it was 9 years ago.
Yeah. 9 years ago, I found some low income apartments that were like $460 a month. Yeah, those same really apartments now is over $700.
Yeah, you can't really find that.
You can't find that anywhere. But basically, probably the dumbest thing that I ever did was that for whatever reason, I had this really strong urge. I wanted to buy a chain for whatever reason. I don't know. I'm not going out, right? I'm not doing things. I'm going to work. I'm going to the gym and I'm coming back home. But for whatever reason, I felt like I really needed this. So me being stupid, I went and bought one, right? But it was like a $200 chain. I talked the guy down to like $170, right? But what I didn't realize is I thought, I guess I had paid my rent already. And so I was looking at money in my account. I was like, oh, cool. You know what I'm saying? I'm straight. I should be good. I had like, mind you, it was like $600-700 in the account at that time, and that was that looked really great for me at the time. I didn't pay my rent, ladies and gentlemen. So what happened was I go and buy this chain. It's still time for me to pay my rent. And I don't have enough for it.
Gotta go sell the chain now.
Now I gotta go sell
Maybe
the
you
chain.
can make a profit. That's why you bought it.
Right, exactly. I could have went and flipped it for double of what it was worth, I guess. But I went out there, and then obviously now my account's in the negative, and I'm stressing trying to figure out what I'm going to do at this point. Thankfully,
were you in a relationship at the time?
Yes, I was in a relationship.
So how did you putting yourself in that not so smart position like affect that relationship at the time? Because now your bank account's in the negative. That makes it really hard to be tentative in that relationship.
So this made me realize, like in all those movies where the man loses his job and doesn't tell his wife for like 3 weeks, and she just finds out one day. I'm like, I get it now.
Yeah.
I get why you didn't want it, because that's, first of all, it's embarrassing.
Yeah.
That's kind of the main thing as far as of what I felt is like, this is embarrassing. As somebody who on a day to day, I'm typically fairly responsible. I don't make a lot of stupid decisions.
So how long did you feel embarrassed in that situation, and how did you overcome it?
Well, I still feel embarrassed now.
It's going to live with you forever, I guess. But in the time, like, how did you overcome it? So let's say if like someone else is going through a similar situation, because nowadays, like, the male persona is like they got a front to make it look like they have money until they actually have money. Like, that's the male persona. Like, I can't look broke. I still gotta have people think that I'm not broke. But it's okay. It's okay to look broke, and it's okay to be broke. I mean, don't look like still get a fresh haircut, have good hygiene, but like, you don't have to wear the most expensive clothes. You know what I'm saying? Like, Young LA has a $30 t-shirt that I wear every single day. Basically, I just have a whole bunch of black Young LA $30 t-shirts. At the end of the day, it's just a t-shirt. So how would you say that you overcame that moment when you were going through it, like in the heat of everything?
So the main thing is, first, there's a feeling of pride, because that's really where embarrassment stems from, is that my pride says I should be way better than this.
Correct.
So first thing you kind of got to do is humble yourself, realize what the situation is, and take the accountability for it. As I just did something really, really stupid, something that I learned from, and something that I won't give into again. But that's kind of the first portion of it, is humbling yourself and understanding that this is a mistake that I made, grounding yourself through that and learning from it. So once I kind of had that sit down with myself, now it's time to lock in, you know what I'm saying? And make sure that something like that doesn't happen again. And since then, I can confidently say I've never put myself in a position to be like that again.
I put myself in a similar situation unintentionally. It's because of the lack of delayed gratification.
Right.
So if you suck at delayed gratification, I think that is one of the best skills you could learn right now, is like, you don't need everything right now.
Right.
And in this particular situation, like, I literally almost had to take an eviction. Like, on my credit report, and that lasts like 7 years. This is way over 7-8 years ago, but this was like at the time we're doing life insurance. And I had a roommate, and you would know this roommate, but we're not going to say any names. But just to get on the topic of like this story and not having money and just being like emotionally unstable and spending money when you don't really have it,
right,
and not having like multiple months of your bills paid up, is I'd actually went to Vegas.
Oh,
lo and behold, I went there a lot of times without a lot of money. It's crazy.
Still had a good time, huh?
Crazy that I did. I did that. But I went to Vegas, stayed there for a couple of days, and then I went to EDC Las Vegas, and I only spent enough. All right, now I'm lying.
There we go.
So actually, I spent everything that I had in my bank account.
Jesus.
Because I knew I was getting another check by the time I got back to pay rent. Okay, so
planning ahead.
I'm spending money that I already don't have. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Because I'm living in the moment, young. Delayed gratification means absolutely nothing to me. And then I have enough money for rent for myself. It's two people. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I get back home, and for whatever reason, I parked at the airport, and then my account was negative, so I had to pay.
You had to pay.
I had to figure out how to pay to get out of the airport, because that was like another $150. I'm like, that was probably not smart. So I think I ended up using a credit card. But then I get home, like, all right, check's about to hit. Boom, I got enough for my portion of rent. That's it. Now, back to the grind. Got to go make some money, because I already spent all the money I didn't have. And then my roommate's like, I don't have my money for rent. I'm like, that's even better. Honestly, that's even better. Because now I don't like now I can save up a little bit more and I don't have to use all the money I have right now for rent. So now I can have a little bit more time. But then, we get to the middle of the month and he says he doesn't have rent again. I'm like, all right, that's cool. Tell the office though, because like now we're in the middle of the month. We got to pay rent in 2 more weeks. And then we get to the 3rd week of the month and he's like, I don't have it and I'm not going to have it. I was like, what's that even mean?
What do you mean you're not
going to have it? What does that even mean? And lucky enough, man, it all ended up working out. I was talking to my pastor. I'm like, yeah, I think I'm going to I got to pay full rent now, right now. And then in another week, I got to pay full rent again for myself.
Wow.
And I'm just like, thank God we're in sales. So I could make it happen. You know, I have no choice. You know, when you burn the boat, you got to make it happen. And that's what I did. I put myself in that dumb situation to where I almost got an eviction. And I was close to taking it and just like eating it on the chin. But I was like, no. Like, I don't want that on my credit report. Ended up getting through it. And that all really stemmed because like I didn't obviously go to Vegas by myself. Like I actually took a female and you would know who it is at the time.
Yeah.
You would know who it is at the time. And just goes to show you like you got to be I wasn't grounded.
You weren't grounded.
And I didn't have my finances. Like my finances weren't in order because obviously I'm spending money before it's coming in, even though I know it's coming in. You know what I'm saying? So that's a huge thing to learn, especially early on. Learn from that mistake, like delayed gratification. Like don't go on these things if you don't have 6 months of your bills paid up, because then you're just going to put yourself in this crazy situation, trying to chase a woman. And for what?
For what?
Am I still with her? No. Did I get that eviction? No.
No.
But here we are.
Right.
We still living life. So focus on yourself being grounded as a male and getting your finances in order before you go to pursue that. Because hindsight, I really don't know what I was thinking. Just trying to live in the moment.
Because it's always 2020 when you look back, right?
Hindsight's 2020, man. But that's a fun little story there. So we all make mistakes here and there, but learn delayed gratification and take care of yourself first.
So I think that kind of going back to kind of what we bring to the table, right? I think one of the most important things that you can have in addition to these things is self-awareness. Because when I do see most of these discussions happen, right, on, either side, I see, I'm a protector and a provider, or I'm a lover and I'm a nurturer and I'm can be somebody's piece. But I never really hear anybody mention, let's say on the male side, I'm a protector and provider, but I'm also condescending sometimes, and I don't know how to watch my mouth when I get angry. Right. I'm all of those things. And then on the other side is, yes, I can be your piece, but also you don't mention that you're 4'11" and your temper shorter than you are. Literally. Right. And it's quick. So I think knowing exactly what you are, because unfortunately, whenever you come to this proverbial table, you're not only bringing the good things. And for whatever reason, whenever these discussions are had, that's the only thing that we're ever talking about. And either people aren't aware about their negative qualities, or they think that for whatever reason, they just won't exist once they get into that relationship.
What do you think as a male, like what's the most important thing you got to bring to the table for a relationship nowadays?
I think the most important thing that you have to bring is leadership. The ability to lead someone else. First, the ability to lead yourself, number one. Then the ability to lead somebody else. Because the age-old saying is obviously whatever you give your partner as a man, they're going to multiply it. So if you're not giving them a sense of comfort, if you're not giving them a comfortable place to be in, emotionally, physically, spiritually, financially, if you're not giving them that, whatever chaos you've ensued is going to just return 100-fold back on you. And it's going to reflect in your everyday relationship. So I think the number one most important thing is the ability to lead regardless of the situation, through hell, through high water, because when the sky's coming down and everything's burning up around you, you're being looked to figure out what are we going to do next at the end of the day, right?
What would you say because I agree, like the male has to be able to lead himself and in order to lead the relationship. What would you say to guys that don't really know how to do that, or they're not doing it and they're kind of unaware, kind of like going back to the self-awareness thing as well? Because we're in the industry. There's a lot of guys that don't know how to lead themselves. Like we see a lot of people on a day in and day out basis, working in a club on the weekends. And there's a lot of guys that, you know, very undisciplined, can't even lead themselves. So say one of those males is listening right now. What would you tell him?
I would say that for you, if you're not comfortable in your ability to lead, or you don't feel like you know how to lead, the first thing that you should find is a leader. Number one,
mentor, 100%.
You need to find somebody who can lead you and teach you how to lead. Like when we went to that Grant Cardone seminar, John Maxwell, who I felt like was probably the best speaker of that whole weekend, leadership. He also has, of course, a leadership podcast that he talks about
so many
how to make you a leader. Right. I think that's the first thing to being a leader is to find somebody to lead, because before you can lead, like we talk about all the time, you have to be able to serve, number one, first. So if you can't do that, it's just like even in business, right? Everybody wants to be at the top. Everybody wants to be at the forefront, but you can't do the little things and have somebody else tell you what to do on a daily basis. In order to lead, you have to be able to serve. So find somebody that you can learn leadership from, and then you get to become the best version of yourself. And then at that point, you'll be able to lead others.
Yeah, I agree with that. And it doesn't have to be like a physical person that you actually know. Like you were saying, it could be John Maxwell has a leadership podcast, has a lot of leadership books. So dive into one of those, learn how to lead yourself, and then bring that into the relationship as well. So definitely agree with you on that. Anything else you got really to touch on this topic? How about for females? Like, is there something, I know we already spoke about it for me. Is there anything in particular that like a female needs to bring to the table?
So for me,
besides like just looking good, you know, cooking a dinner.
I'm a simple guy, right? The main things that I need, just specifically from a partner, is number one, like you said, you know, look cute, be cute to me. Obviously, not everybody's cute to everybody. Everybody got to go on cup of tea, beauty's in the eye of the beholder, whatever. Be cute and don't be annoying, right? Those are my two main things. You can learn how to cook, you can learn how to clean. Those are things I'm gonna be doing anyway too. We can figure it out together. But those two things, obviously being cute, that's a physical attribute, but don't be annoying is a character trait. But what I mean by don't be annoying is don't take enjoyment out of things that I enjoy, right? So on a daily basis, even, you know, scrolling through social media, you see girls complaining about how their men will spend all day watching basketball or watching football or playing video games or doing something that they genuinely enjoy, and it makes them sick to their stomach because they're not getting whatever attention that they feel like, you know, they want. And so once you have done that, and then once she's noticed that, she starts to do things to kind of take the enjoy. She'll come and interrupt or annoy you or start to complain. Now you're making the things that I enjoy, the things that I enjoyed long before you. And if we don't last, things I'm going to enjoy long after you. Right. And you're making those things unenjoyable for me. And that kind of results in those marriages that you see after 30, 50 years, people breaking up. Because at some point you just get tired of it. You've just essentially had enough of it. The way that, unfortunately, men describe men. People talk about, oh, husbands hate their wives all the time. Well, that's because they be annoying sometimes. It's because they talk about like, what do they call their wife? The old ball and chain. Yeah. I had one guy when we were working one night, walking by, we trying to get him to come into the club. Older guy, you could tell he had some money on him. Points at his wedding ring and says, "This is the smallest pair of handcuffs you'll ever have." Oh, geez. True. And so once, and for me personally, I don't want one day that I feel like I'm trapped in something that I don't want to be in. And so by following those two rules for me, I feel like I'll be comfortable in a relationship forever. Yeah.
Keep it simple. I mean, there's not much I think like women really have to bring to a table. I mean, each person has their own things that they like and enjoy. So you would say that women got it pretty easy?
I wouldn't say they have it. I think that
they got it pretty easy when finding a relationship.
Because
not in life in general.
Well, finding a relationship is tough because she has to find a man who wants to be in a relationship. So that makes that part of it for her tough. I think that sometimes being a partner can be more difficult than being the leader, because now I have to be next to you through whatever you do. And sometimes, obviously, we do some stupid stuff. And unfortunately, like that little meme says, sometimes she's gonna stand by you through those things as a good partner. It's kind of like one of those things where, like, if you're out in public, you do something stupid, and your girl start yelling at you, and it's like an emasculating thing, that they talk about. Like,
that's a disrespectful thing. So that goes back to in the first episode we talk about how the guy needs respect, the girl needs love. Yelling at him in a public place, definitely disrespectful. So
it's disrespectful, but also you did something blatantly stupid and she's chastising you for it. Right. Do it when we get home. But that's probably one of the difficult parts about being a partner and being the person who's being led in the relationship, is that you're not going to agree with all the decisions all the time.
No.
And so
agree to disagree occasionally.
Occasionally.
All the time.
But I think that's super, it's almost like being a part of a team where, let's say you played football for all those years. A lot of things the coach was doing, maybe you didn't agree with all the time. Maybe some guy was starting over you but you were a member of the team. So you shut up and you dealt with it.
Put in the work. Yeah,
exactly. But yeah, I do think it does become tough at times. Now, as far as them having it easy, I know what the discussion is now is that, especially like when it comes to like finances, it seems like society wise, we don't really expect much from them in terms of what they're bringing to the relationship. Obviously, ideally, she should have a job, but nobody's putting standards on income that women need to make before coming to a relationship.
Do you think, since we're on the topic of finances again in relationships, when is it? I guess how do I want to word this? So, how should bills be broken up in a household? Let's say like this is the person that you're with. You think you're going to get married to him. What's your thoughts on that? Like, regardless of each other's income, how do you think bills should be split? 50-50, 60-40, 100-0, 0-100? Just be at home, be a video game streamer, my wife take care of everything? No. What's your thoughts on that?
I think that you should do what makes sense for your household, right? The way as in the U.S. median household income is what, like $50,000 a year, right? Something like that. So like we said, living in Tampa, $50,000 a year for yourself is a difficult thing to kind of make it on a day-to-day with your car and your rent and trying to at least have some fun, right? So when you bring somebody else into that equation, to me, making that amount of money doesn't make sense to be paying 100% of everything, especially if your partner's working.
Technically can't, because then you're going to put yourself in that situation of
because at the end of every month, you're scrounging for pennies. So at that point, it doesn't make sense. Now, me personally, I have no problem with me taking care of all those things. But if it makes sense, because I did it in times where it didn't make sense. That's how I know I'll do it. When it does.
So what if let's say the male's making $150K and the female's making $60K? What would be your thoughts on that? Who pays what percentage of bills?
What are our bills on a monthly basis?
So the bills are like $8K total.
$8K total. So per month.
Yeah.
All right.
So let's say the male is making $150,000 a year, the female is making $60,000 a year.
Okay, so you break down $150,000.
You just do it fair. Just do it fair. Do it based on percentages.
Do it based on percentages.
So the guy's making basically 3 times more than the female, so he should pay 3 times more of the bills.
So what would that be? What
I don't know off the top of my head,
90,
but
whatever. I mean,
he's going to be paying probably $6K. She pays $2K essentially. Monthly.
I mean, 150. Really, if we're making,
does that make sense?
I think that would make sense. But if I'm making $150K a year, and our bills are $10K a month, that's a problem. Or $8K a month.
I mean, let's say you're like, I mean,
theoretically,
I agree theoretically, but let's say you're investing money into startups or something. You're trying to start a business. I don't know.
Right.
Just making up a number. Mine aren't that high, and then mine aren't even 4. I don't think. So if I added someone else with less than 4, like that makes sense. But yeah, those are just hypothetical numbers. So, but you would break it up based on the income. Income to income. I would break down. But really, what usually the standard is I'll take care of the big things, and then she takes care of like the utilities or whatever. The Target bill.
That right, because that's usually going to be her thing anyway, right? Definitely. Those little things, right?
Amazon. Her cards on Amazon.
Right.
Just make sure you guys know that, fellas. Put her
Etsy, whatever those other thing is.
Yeah, her cards on Amazon.
Sheen, yeah, all that fun stuff. I think that does make sense. Now, like I said, for me in that situation, right? Because have you ever paid somebody's bills before? Has that been something you've been a part of?
I've never like paid a bill directly.
Okay.
But I have given money and I have paid for everything else. Like stuff that we do,
right,
that isn't related to me. Like your phone bill, I'm not going to pay. Your TCO, your rent, like I'm not going to pay any of those things. I will like if we go on a trip, anything else like that, like that's what I'm going to be the one taking care of, dinners, things like that. So essentially, you're going on trips and eating and any. I mean, if you ask for it, you'll probably get it.
Right.
So it's like I'm not ever going to let you be in a position to where you gotta like really stress about it. Like if you need it. Sure. Cool. It depends on the level, like where we're at in the relationship. If I just met you, you ask me that, you'll never talk to me again.
What's the stage where it makes sense to start that? Because that's kind of what the ongoing thing is. As soon as
you say that you love them, then they can ask you.
But I have to tell them. They can't tell me.
Or they tell you. I mean, as soon as it's a mutual thing, like you're like, I love you, you love me. Then it's like, okay. Now you're like, hey, can I get some rent money? Oh, of course. If it's before that, if you're like, oh, I kind of fuck with this girl. She's cool. Hey, can I get some rent money? Oh, no, we're out of here. We're getting out of here, my man. Welcome to Miami. We're out of here.
Right. So I can agree with that. So yeah, I think it should be a gradual thing. I think oftentimes what happens is that people start asking for middle of the relationship benefits at the beginning of the relationship.
Yeah, absolutely not.
And that just sets a bad precedence, especially when you're the one who's going to have to kind of give more of that. Yeah,
I'll take you out.
Yeah, we can go out.
I'll pay for dinner,
right?
But it's like a bill. lend you money. I don't lend money after all the things that I've done. Lend you money, pay a bill? Nah, absolutely not. It comes a point in time where if you are about to be in a relationship, or if you're dating that person and then you say you love them, they say you love you, then 100%. If it's anywhere before that, absolutely not. And absolutely not. Let me move on to the next person, because that is absolutely absurd.
Okay, so maybe I didn't do it at a bad time when I... So...
Were you in a relationship? Did you love her?
I said, yeah, sure, right?
Were you financially responsible yourself?
Okay, so you see that, right?
Oh, that third one.
I was financially responsible, but I wasn't financially comfortable, which unfortunately those two things didn't coincide with each other.
Yeah, so I would say that's the third and most important thing, because at the end of the day, like, you can't pour from an empty cup.
Right.
So you got to make sure that your livelihood is taken care of before you start to take care of somebody else's livelihood. Meaning, when we go back to the first point of like, the guy has to be grounded and financially stable, have 6 months plus of his bills already saved up before he starts to pursue something like that. So in the instance that it does happen, you say, oh, I'm comfortable. Even if I'm not making a lot of money, like I'm comfortable because I have a lot of money saved up and set aside, because I've been living well below my means and I've been practicing delayed gratification. So I can do all these things very comfortably because I love you and you love me. And we're in a relationship together, and I'm not going to let you fail because I've already taken the steps prior to me being and meeting you.
Exactly.
To put in place so that way when I do meet you, I could take care of you if you're in that position. But as I go back to what I said at the beginning, is that she's got to be driven too. She can't just be asking for a handout and staying on the couch. Like, no, you got to go figure it out and make things happen as well.
Right. Because even the Bible says God helps those who help themselves. Right. What I'll say is that in my defense of the situation, it was an accident. I didn't mean to move in with her. It was an accident. She just kind of ended up there one day. Right. I showed up to pick her up one day and she had 2 very large suitcases, and then suddenly she just never left again. It was very sudden for me. And then obviously ended up paying, we were at my place. So obviously I'm paying the rent and all the lights and all the other bills.
Is she paying anything at the time?
No, I think I was also paying her cell phone bill at the time too.
So were you in love with her? In a relationship with her?
In love is strong. I can say that I did love her, but obviously I was like 21, so, some people know.
At the time you did.
You felt like that's what that was. And it made sense to do.
I made a situation similar to that, at how old am I now? Like 27, 28. You know what I'm saying? So I understand where you're coming from. You know what I'm saying? It didn't turn out the best, but we sometimes think with our heart and not our head, and do things on the fly that we think make sense. And at the time, I was financially stable. I was grounded, and I still, made that mistake. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. We can only take those relationships that we go through,
right,
and learn something from them,
right.
And that we'll talk about that on another episode. But you got anything else as we finish up here? Any other final thoughts?
Well, I did want to ask you. Well, I really for everybody else. Before you get into something, ask yourself a question of what do you lack? Because whatever you do lack is going to be amplified in that relationship. And if you're not ready for somebody to tell you where you're falling short at, then that's not going to be very successful.
Yeah, you're going to take it the wrong way, and then simply going to end to you're going to get into an argument and so on and so forth.
But also make sure your criticism is constructive and not destructive. Right?
100%.
Because when you're bringing things to the table, compassion should be one of these things, right? So I know, and nobody likes hearing bad things about themselves.
Never. Especially not from your significant other.
Especially not from your significant other. So when you are telling them and giving them that feedback, it's important to do it in a certain way that they're going to be receptive of that. And that kind of goes back to the love languages conversation that, we had, where basically you need to talk to your partner in a way that they're going to listen, in a way that they're going to hear you, in a way that's not going to be offensive to them.
100%. I think that's all we got for this episode today. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. And we will see you next Saturday. Take care, guys.